The most authentic Asian food brand in America has no dragon, no lotus flower, no brush script font, and no bowing woman on the label. It looks like a punk show flyer, and it was designed that way on purpose, by people who grew up watching their mother's cooking reduced to a $3 jar in an aisle most shoppers walk past without stopping. What these founders built wasn't just a better package, it was a visual argument, one that said the reason you think this food is cheap is because someone designed it to look cheap. But now that argument has been made so many times, by so many brands, in so many pitch decks, that it has calcified into exactly the kind of shorthand it was built to destroy. The Rebellion has a brand guide. And the brand guide is raising Series A. Welcome to the Threads of Culture, a show that unpacks design, branding, and the cultural forces shaping the global stage. Here's what we're getting into. The children of immigrants invented a visual grammar for food packaging that refuses both exoticism and erasure, and that grammar is already at risk of becoming a costume anyone can put on. We'll trace how the ethnic aisle trained American shoppers to see entire cultures as cheap. We'll look at 3 brands that broke the system open between 2017 and 2020, and then we'll ask whether their rebellion has already hardened into the next uniform. The American grocery store has always been a sorting machine. For decades, it sorted culture into a single aisle. The industry called it the ethnic aisle, and the visual rules were rigid. Chinese food got red and gold. Indian food got ornamental borders and saturated jewel tones. Vietnamese, Thai, Korean, all flattened into the same visual register. A register that communicated one message to the mainstream shopper. Foreign, therefore cheap, therefore risky. This was not an accident of design. It was a design system doing exactly what it was built to do. Research published in 2023 in the Brazilian journal Transformação confirmed what these founders already knew intuitively. Visual language does not merely represent a culture. It conditions how that culture is perceived. The dragon font on the soy sauce bottle doesn't reflect how Americans think about Chinese food. It teaches them how to think about it. And for decades, it taught them that Chinese food belongs in a low-margin aisle with bad lighting. The visual codes weren't describing a hierarchy, they were building one. Then, between 2017 and 2020, a cluster of founders broke the system open, and they did it the same way. Sana Javeri Kadri launched Diaspora Co. in 2017, selling single-origin Indian spices in packaging that borrowed from specialty coffee and natural wine. Muted earth tones, hand-drawn botanicals, the farmer's name on every label, the harvest date printed like a vintage. She mapped the concept of terroir onto turmeric, and the design made it legible. American consumers already understood that a single-origin geisha coffee is worth $20. Kadri gave them the visual framework to understand that turmeric from a specific farm in India deserves the same respect. A year later, Jing Gao launched Fly by Jing, selling chili crisp with packaging that looked more like Aesop than anything in the international aisle. Matte black jars, clean serif typography, tasting notes that read like wine descriptors. Tingly, numbing, complex. The brand didn't land on Whole Foods shelves until years after that first jar shipped, but the visual identity was locked from day one. She took Chili Crisp from the $3 Laogan Ma jar and repositioned it at $15 by borrowing the visual codes of luxury fragrance. Then in 2020, Vanessa and Kim Pham launched Omsom with packaging so loud it felt confrontational. Neon pinks and oranges, brutalist sans serif type, illustrated ingredient diagrams that referenced skate culture and zine aesthetics. The name itself was a provocation. Om Som means noisy in Vietnamese, the exact quality Asian women are culturally told to suppress. The design screamed because the founders were done whispering. What makes this more than a branding trend is the infrastructure that allowed it to happen. The direct-to-consumer boom of 2018 to 2021 removed the gatekeeper. For decades, getting onto a grocery shelf meant convincing a buyer, usually someone with deeply conventional ideas about what ethnic food should look like, that your product fit the category. DTC flipped the sequence. These brands reached consumers on Instagram and Shopify, where packaging was the first encounter. Not a small label lost in a neglected aisle, and the consumers they reached were primed. Gen Z and millennial shoppers were already telling surveys and retailers they wanted what they called authentic international food. The demand existed, the design just had to give it permission to convert. These founders also shared something less visible: a tight network. Omsum's identity was shaped by Outline, a design studio in close conversation with similar BIPOC-led agencies. The visual language did not emerge from dozens of independent decisions. It was developed by a small creative ecosystem whose members knew each other, referenced each other, and collectively built a new visual grammar. The grammar said you could be culturally specific without performing ethnicity for a white gaze. You can be premium without erasing your origin story. You can belong on the same shelf as RX Bar and Who Kitchen, borrowing the clean label movement's credibility while refusing its blankness. But grammar, once shared widely enough, becomes convention, and convention is where this gets uncomfortable. Walk through a Whole Foods today, and the new diaspora aesthetic is instantly recognizable. Bold sans serif or moody serif, saturated brights or muted earth tones, no ornamental imagery, copy that announces itself as unapologetic. It has become its own template, reproducible without the lived experience that generated it. A new brand can adopt the visual codes, raise venture capital on the strength of the aesthetic alone, and never do the cultural work underneath. The pitch deck version of authentic now has its own look, and investors recognize it as a signal of an addressable market. And there is a deeper tension. By defining red and gold, dragon fonts, and ornamental patterns as markers of exoticism, these brands risk devaluing visual traditions that carry deep cultural meaning within the very cultures they claim to honor. Red and gold are not Western inventions imposed on Chinese food. They are culturally sacred. Laogan Ma, with its founder's photo on every jar, no designer involved, is arguably more authentic than any art-directed matte black bottle. The question is, who gets to call it authentic? Fly by Jing is authentic to the diasporic experience, the experience of straddling two visual worlds and refusing to be reduced by either one. Laogan Ma is authentic to the Chinese domestic market, where no one needs permission to charge a fair price for chili crisp. These are different truths, and the new visual grammar cannot hold both of them at once. So the founders who rejected one uniform may have built another. The language they created is real, earned through biography and cultural labor, rooted in the specific frustration of watching your family's food flattened into a visual stereotype. But a visual language only stays radical as long as it resists easy replication. The moment it becomes a formula, the moment a branding agency can produce it without a diaspora story behind it, it stops being identity and starts being aesthetics. And aesthetics, separated from the politics that produce them, is just another package on a shelf. The next time you pick up a $15 jar with clean typography and no cultural ornamentation, ask yourself what you are actually paying for. The ingredient inside, or the feeling that buying it makes you the kind of person who doesn't need the ethnic aisle? Be honest about which one costs more. If this changed how you see the grocery shelf, it'll change the next cart you push down one too. Until next time, this has been the Threads of Culture.